Доброго дня.
Good afternoon, colleagues. In fact, today we are not the only one who address the issue of psychosocial rehabilitation in our country. Today we will be talking about update on the problem, and I think that some decisions, solutions will be proposed. We would like to cover the problems in detail which are present in Ukraine during this upon these events in Ukraine, upon the losses in combats, we have very many people who requires aid, social services, which were provided in insufficient quantity during 20 years in social sphere were very slow, used to be very slow. So this is a challenge, psychosocial rehabilitation. I would like to give the floor first to highlight the situation which is in place for the families of injured and deceased and IDPs, and I'm giving the floor to Taras Kovalyk, ATO veteran and the trainer in the project Heart of the Warrior. Good afternoon. My task as a consumer of the services provided by the state and the veteran of the war in the East to cover the problems which we face. There is a problem that there is no culture, absolutely, concerning communication with a psychologist. I would not seek a psychologist myself if I'm not proposed such aid. So when you were a participant in ATO events or Maidan events, you really need such psychological aid. We need a window of confidence that I have a person where to go, to whom to apply as a vet who contacted governmental authorities upon my service in action. Upon the war, when I returned, I didn't receive any aid from the government, which I needed, but I felt that I should proceed battling for myself, for my health. So how to contact vets? This is not the strong feature of our government. When a vet comes saying that he is injured into the leg, then he needs some aid. We should speak slower because of simultaneous translation. Yes. I was a consumer of these services and I was a volunteer, and for 3 years I should have been battling for proving that I really was a participant in ATO events, that I was a serviceman, although I was a veteran. And I was provided the benefits to which I have the right, to which I am entitled to. So this additional checks which I needed, then I went to psychiatric institutions when I contacted the system seeking the status of a vet. When I was in a psychiatric hospital due to such check, which such inspection and examination was a mandatory one, and I was afraid of being jailed in such hospital, that I can lose my freedom of movement, and also I felt some problems, psychological. Why should I be in such conflict, in such struggle with the government, with the state, in order to get the benefits to which I am entitled? There is very large assistance from NGOs and veterans organizations. This is the only help which I received upon return from the war. The problem is very acute. It is urgent. I have been granted the status of disabled person due to the war, but I need now to go for examination every 3 years into psychiatric hospital, so it is easier for me to waive this right for this status. Only NGOs work in this domain. They are only organizations which help. And when I contact other vets, there is a problem which they demonstrate that there are many emotions which we experience. My response is believed inadequate when I struggle for my rights, and I then experience these negative feelings because of this resistance of the system. And as a person affected by the war, we are a special category of people, special group of people. Such questions as how many people you have killed, such questions, they really give rise to some aggressive response from me. In Lviv, the special center was established by the authorities. There is special service for veterans to deliver services to them, and they are the veterans and the members of their families. They are hired by this center. That is why the communication goes smoothly, because we understand each other, we experience the same problems. And I'm not talking about rehabilitation institutions which provide rehabilitation to the injured. It is real fun. The meals are not good there, and psychological services provided there, they can even injure me more. These services can damage me, and also there is challenge of becoming a drunkard there. I will not go to such an institution for rehabilitation. Indeed, we need to change something, and it is urgent. The example is just enter the word veteran into Google and look in Ukrainian what pictures you will see, and then do the same in English. You will then get perception of what is a veteran in the English word and in Ukrainian world. What is the mindset of persons in Ukraine? This is dignity. This mindset should be translated from mass media. Such images of dignified persons, they should be communicated via mass media. There are many problems. Some part of major problems I have explained to you.
Thank you, Taras. So he was provided with help, but he want to understand better and have good position of what is going on and understanding of this. And we believe that Lviv administration, they understood the problem and really provide help. And the specialists and the families, they got united in organizations, and the specialists who understand these ideas. And also we would like to hear Vitaliy Klymchuk. He is executive director of the Institute of Mental Health of the Ukrainian Catholic University. Please, you're given the floor. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Unfortunately, I have to say that there is no efficient system of rehabilitation for veterans in Ukraine. And the psychosocial rehabilitation is absent, is lacking, and the whole system is lacking. There are 5 reasons for this. So, system, specialists, trajectory, continuity, and language.
Що я маю на увазі? Ґрунт.
So what I mean, first, the background. So this is the system that should be in place, and we are lacking it here in Ukraine. So what I mean by the system that is of quality, efficient, based on needs of patients. So this is the system we should establish, because there can't be rehabilitation in the clinic or in a sanatorium or in any other institution that is closed and where the freedom is limited somehow. So rehabilitation is possible only in society, in the family. And at the same time, this person should be provided the whole variety of services of help. And this is not only about the veterans, it is about the system on the whole. Next, specialists. Unfortunately, it happens so that all qualified specialists who can provide quality help, that can provide the social and psychological rehabilitation, they are trained in the framework of NGO programs. They paid a lot of money for their own education, and now they work for the benefit of society, for people. And we are lacking some such specialists. We need 10 or 100 times more. So, and also we should meet European standard on psychotherapy, education, and proven methods of provision of help. Third, the length. If we are speaking about rehabilitation, it starts at the moment of trauma. And rehabilitation should have been started at that point. Psychological and social rehabilitation should be before the trauma. Maybe it should be done before a person becomes the military. So they should start the work before recruitment, and it should be done in the course of service and then after demobilization. Fourth, this is trajectory. A person who needs psychological rehabilitation, they should know who can provide help, where to address to. How can they get this? And we face the situation. There are a lot of entry points, but in many cases this is done by local efforts of NGOs, local organizations that exist due to European help and from supported by other donors. Unfortunately, sanatoriums and other institutions that are financed, these are not good points of entry. And lastly, this is language. If we hear our language, we say veterans, IDPs, we say we and we say they. And in this way, we put in our conscious inequality and discrimination and biased attitude. And when we say we, then we will understand that the changes started. Thank you. So we join all the activists, those who want to solve this problem. The problem we face is not that people do not care, not that power do not want to see it. The issue is that we didn't have for 20 years the system, and now, like in Maidan, everyone tries to help by their own efforts without structured system from the state. And the state should organize such things. And practically all social services, also work in social sphere, is dealt with by local power, but they do not have enough means and proper methodological support. So social, psychological and social rehabilitation, and there is psychotherapy and some psychological sessions, but there is no proper structure and proper financing. Training of specialists is lacking. And what are the criteria? We may say that good support is provided to veterans from well-trained trainers who clearly understand their functions, and not from those who got diplomas from higher educational institutions. So there should be proper requirements to the protocols, and the activists find good practices abroad and try to implement it here in Ukraine. But we do not feel that there is proper approach from the side of the state. There should be proper law on psychological rehabilitation. We do not see the end of this process. So we should understand that this is not the problem of someone else. This is the problem of our nearest future. So these are the citizens who are bring our future citizens. They form the budget of the state, and we should care about them today, not delay this. And we are ready to answer questions about this, and on Thursday we will have a round table and we will propose discussions and also the analysis and the statistics, the data, and what should be done in the country, and also to hear the opinions of those who support us and help in resolving such problems. Thank you, dear colleagues. Now Q&A session. Please present yourself first.
1+1 channel. My colleagues told that the statistic could not be very correct about those who were combatants and mobilized suicide cases. 30%. This is the statistics of the Ministry of Defense on suicide among veterans. But do you know such statistical data? No, you don't. Okay. The Ministry of Defense, as a soldier, I can say that what was happening in our Dar battalion, all losses in the war, in action, according to even suicide, they are perceived as losses in action. If some drunkard just died because of some alcohol, then the top managers may say that that this was the case of suicide. Losses are perceived by veterans as the person died in action. There are many good commanders of military units, and if they die, they should be in memory, kept in memory as heroes. This is as concerned the Ministry of Defense, and this is my comments. Let's not divide the people deceased in action into different categories. Let's not group them. All of them need help, need support during the warfare and upon when they return home. They need psychological aid. I know there are NGOs working with the Ministry of Defense to promote this idea in the ministry. They do not provide such services, but they are negotiating this with the Ministry of Defense. But this is the question, this is the issue in the competence of the ministry. Mikhaila Kazarena, NGO, Future Generation. I have a question. Do you have your own experience? Or have you heard about critical situations among vets who were injured and who lost their legs or I'm a trainer in the Heart of Warrior organization. During the trainings, of course, our participants of training, they share their experience, how they contact inside of their families. This is a sacral sins, but there are very little persons who are talking about contact with children. They perceive contacts with family in general, not dividing this. And as concerns the problem of aggression, when a vet during initial period from 6 months to 2 years, talking about symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, they may respond aggressively to some scenes which usually do not invoke such aggressive response. So they really needs some help and get consultations in the sphere of contacts with children. And we have vets who have children, but we can only provide peer-to-peer consultations. Talking about experts, they have not proposed, no NGOs proposed us to provide consultations on communication with children. We just share details, contact details of psychologists who we know, and we disseminate such information between our members, between members of our organization and other vets. And responsibility for confidence in psychologists, I take such responsibility. Veterans will try to address such challenges themselves if such person as me, like me, will not give them an advice to contact some psychologist. Volodymyr Zaderaka, TV channel Chernomorsk. Do you have data in which period the post-traumatic stress disorder problem will be most intensively demonstrated, when the climax will be seen? As far as I understand, this is a mine of retarding action. I know some persons who returned from the war feeling as if they are in normal order, but later on some problems arose. I would say that talking about standard definition of post-traumatic stress disorder, upon 2 weeks we can tell that this is PTSR if symptoms do not disappear. On average, about 30% will have PTCR upon warfare. But considering other symptoms, they can be linked not only to the trauma but also to trying to get used to live in the family again. So to find again the place in society upon demobilization. Well, this is not the peak which we should expect, but the more people take part in the warfare, in the hostility, there's a number of people with PTCR, it will be growing, and then after that these people will exist if we do not treat their disorders. The disorders may develop into chronic diseases, and PTSR, they really demonstrated in some time, but it is easily curable. This just needs systemic work with psychologists. The same concern depression. We need experts, the systems, and we will cope with this. On this positive note, that we will be able to cope with this, and our society, not only families, we can finalize and finish our briefing, and we will be glad to see you on Thursday.